2024 has been an absolutely insane year for Warframe, where we've just been jam-packed with new and engaging fun content right from the start of the year. And honestly, it might have been the busiest year that Warframe has ever had, or at least it certainly feels that way. Many of us have been saying since the start of the year that this is the best shape that Warframe has ever been in, from content to balance passes to reworks and new things to explore and do. So as the year wraps up, let's go through the major things that's happened in 2024 as we begin a new year. Of course, if you like what you see, a like and a sub is always appreciated, and let me know in the comments what your favorite new thing was in 2024. Before we get into 2024, I think that it's important to talk about Whisper in the Walls and its sub-patches including Dante Unbound, as this was the capstone quest for 2023 and bled long into 2024. We were treated to a whole new tile set on Deimos and a new enemy faction, a new Warframe Corvex, the Vosper Arcane trading system, a new mission type Alchemy, and harder content like Netrocells and eventually Deep Archimedian and Elite Deep Archimedian for those of us who want more of a challenge. The Archon Shard system was expanded on with the new combined shards, the addition of melee arcanes, and a new weapon type in the Grimoire, which I hope that they keep adding to as it's super neat to have such a utility-based weapon type in the game. We also got a new system added into the game with this series of patches being Tennokai, which made melee a lot more interesting and engaging than just holding down our melee button. And then came Dante, quite possibly the most controversial thing to happen this year. He was released in a state that just made him way too good. So of course Digital Extremes needed to balance him, which took a bit of time to get right, and everyone in the community took this well. Yeah, very well. Definitely no overreactions from anyone with this nerf. By the way, I should take this moment to say that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Dante Unbound also came with the Inaros rework, which saw him get some significant changes and buffs across the board with his abilities and made him much more fun to play rather than just hee I've got lots of health. We also got a new chroma augment, Guardian Armor, and changes to how Vex Armor generates bonuses, really revitalizing this frame for Dragon King enjoyers like myself. Cross-save and cross-trade also came along with these patches, which about time honestly, we've been waiting on that for years. So it's wonderful that we now have a unified community across all platforms and systems. That, and it was great that we were able to merge our older accounts together so that our collections were also unified. This patch series was also where we got our first in-game taste of Warframe 1999, and man, the hype was going crazy all year round. As we found ourselves with the summer beginning, Jade Shadows was launched, and this was another massively packed patch. Firstly, we saw the beautiful story and backstory of the Stalker, and with it came the release of our 57th Warframe Jade. Now, I'm not going to spoil any of the story here, but you should definitely play this quest if you haven't yet. Patch-wise, this came along with a new mission type Ascension and Jade's 3 new weapons as well. But probably the most interesting thing this patch was the changes to armor, shield, and the status rework. These 3 changes shook up the entire meta of Warframe to a drastic level, and really gave the game new life and enjoyment for veterans and new players alike. Previously, it was basically required to bring 100% armor strip into a late game mission, and now it's less necessary and more of a nice to have, and the enemy shields got a big buff, so that they were actually mildly something that we had to deal with rather than being the world's smallest speed bump. But the status rework, holy smokes, this changed everything in the game for build crafters. Magnetic and Blast got complete overhauls and are now some of the best elements in the game, and Cold got a nice buff as well. The rest of the elements that were already good were left good, so it was a complete win-win overhaul for everyone. Of course, we also got a Frost and Ember rework in this series of patches, which really changed up those frames' playstyles and made them a lot more engaging and fun. And of course, who could forget the best thing these patches brought? The Ember Heirloom set, which of course everyone took respectfully and was very mindful and demure about it, right? Right, guys? Now we start to lead into Warframe 1999 with the release of Lotus Eaters, which was a nice little prologue quest, which apparently the whole community forgot was a prologue quest, and no one at all complained about its length because everyone remembered it was a prologue quest, right? That was sarcasm for those who missed it. We also got Sevagoth Prime released during this, and man oh man, what a beautiful Prime frame he is. With summer turning to fall, we got Koumei and the 5 Fates update. Now again, this patch brought more than just a new Warframe Koumei and a mission and some new weapons. This patch also brought along a huge rework to our companions. No longer were our poor fluffy pets gathering dust, but they're now some of the best options for companions we have in the game, and the meta isn't ruled over by our robotic overlords being sentinels and hounds any longer. This also came with the long-expected Smita Kavat nerf, which ended up working well for everyone with the addition of new retriever mods so that all companions could get extra loot instead of just the Smita. Overall, I'd personally say that this was an overall win, but to each their own. Now this wasn't all that Koumei and the 5 Fates brought, of course. We also got a Nova rework, a Hildren touch-up, and the biggest rework in my memory being the Caliban rework. Now, the Nova rework was more about quality of life, making both Speedva and Slowdva castable and not dependent on strength anymore, There were some changes to null stars, and some other things to make her a bit more enjoyable and engaging, and Hildryn got some small but significant changes and a new augment that really revitalized her. But Caliban, oh boy, this was the least played frame in the game by a mile. Not because he was bad, he was actually alright, but he was just so clunky with his playstyle and abilities that it felt bad to play. But this rework really changed that. All of his abilities got major buffs or overhauls, but the one that I think that people were most interested in was certainly his summons, which now has 3 different types of summons that we can choose from in a mission depending on what we needed or wanted. We also got 5 new incarnins, which turned into some of my more favorite incarnins in the game, and Xaku Prime also graced us with their presence, and they've definitely turned into one of my favorite frames. And then the calm before the storm. The Game Awards rolls around, Reb is up on stage and tells us that Warframe 99 will be out tomorrow, just about 3 weeks ago now. This patch is a masterpiece, and it's not even done yet. Like Whisper in the Walls, this patch is going to bleed long into 2025, but let's go over what's already come out before we talk about some of the other things that will be coming out in a future video or short. We got our first long story quest in years, and holy crap, this might actually be the best story quest that Warframe has ever released, and it certainly contends with the heavy hitters like the Sacrifice and the New War in my mind. The writing, the music, which has been amazing all year by the way, the atmosphere, the voice acting, the animations, everything about this was a masterpiece in my mind. Again, I don't want to spoil this for anyone who hasn't played yet, but you're in for a real treat. With this, we got a whole new setting, being Hulvania set in the year 1999 with a rotational season system to change up the appearance of the mission each week, and 2 new enemy factions being the Skaldra and the Tekrot, or Technocyte depending on who you ask. On the mechanics and gameplay side of things, Cyto 9 came out and has been really fun and interesting frame, which you really need to check out if you haven't yet. But along with him also came 2 more reworks for Trinity and Nyx, which unlike others this year, were more about bringing them up to par through quality of life changes and small improvements to their kits. Which at least for me is kind of exactly what they needed, and I'm really enjoying both of these frames once again. We got a whole new series of arcanes and mods that at least for me are making me think about certain weapons and warframes very differently, especially the new acuity mods that really reward a higher skill playstyle. And of course we can't forget to mention the new protoframe skins that came with 99 as well, where we can make our warframes look like their respective members of the Hex and has given us some really beautiful fashion options. We also got a whole dating sim with it too, where we can romance or just befriend the characters from the Warframe 1999 quest, the Hex. I personally hope that they continue to expand upon this further, because it's something that I think Warframe really needed all this time. The personal engagement to the story rather than just the story happening with us in it. I at least love this kind of thing, and I'm really hoping for more of it in Warframe's future. Now, as I've previously said, and you've probably noticed, for me the theme of 2024 in Warframe really felt like it was engagement. Not just in the game, but with the company as well. Reb and the team were shipped internationally this year to a few different international conventions like Gamescom in Germany and Tokyo Game Show in Japan. On the play side, the devs are really rewarding us for being more engaged with the game rather than turning our brain off and mashing buttons. They've really done a fantastic job with this between the new systems, the changes to the old systems, the reworks of previously boring frames, and all of the new frames that have had really synergistic playstyles to the point that I'm rarely using the helmet system these days on these new and reworked frames. They found a formula this year, and like many of us have been saying all year, this is the best that Warframe has ever been. So to Reb, Pablo, Megan, Beth and Matt, and everyone on the Digital Extremes team, let's raise a glass and say thanks to the hard work. And we're all looking forward to what you have in store for us for the future.